This One Up podcast is brought to you by Windows Media Center. Your Xbox 360, your music, your photos, your TV shows, and your videos with one connection.
All right, the wait is over. We're coming to you live by tape from Santa Monica to give you a rundown. The first day of E3 is in the books. We're going to hit the press conferences hard here in the first segment. We'll probably catch them also in the second segment. So if you're looking forward to specific games, we may catch a few highlights at the end of the second segment today, but we'll be hitting those much harder in the next 2 days after this. But we can't go any further without introducing the cast here in the room with me. I have John and Shane, and then also joining us today are Patrick and Shawn Elliot. So we got a whole crew to rotate in and out. Let's get right into Microsoft, because that was a weird press conference last night, wasn't it?
It was outdoors, which is very strange. We've never had that happen before.
In a high school auditorium outside.
Yeah, but the high school, that's auditorium looks like it's Marine World or something.
Yeah, apparently, I wondered what the deal with it had like a water feature on the stage.
They built that.
No. The water feature was there. They just put stuff around it.
State synchronized swimming championships are held there.
There's a pool, and they put stuff over the pool and sort of sculpted around it, but the pool was there already.
Well, as anybody who's watching the press conference on the net or on TV knows, they started it in kind of, I think, a vaguely lame way with this band.
There's nothing really vague about it.
Yeah, this band made up of 5 super Halo fans from like Indiana or something.
What do you call that band?
They believe they were called.
They're called
Corporeal.
Okay, because I call them Corporeal Speedwagon.
Yeah, if you want to download their stuff. Anyway, they played a very spirited cover of the Halo title screen theme.
Dude, they were trying hard.
They were
very.
And when we say that it was lame, not that they themselves were lame, but it just wasn't really an appropriate way to start the press conference.
Right.
I think. They were like very, very competent.
Yeah, they tried. They were very into it.
I got to admire the chick with her electric violin walking out over the catwalk thing, doing the sort of like the rock star thing.
But it definitely didn't evoke the emotion that I think Microsoft may have hoped.
Right. What it evoked for me was like the Who Wants to Be a Star? You know those shows like with David Hasselhoff or whatever, like America's Got Talent.
America's Got Talent ?
So
the Apollo.
But when I watch those, I want to see people fail and like. So I was hoping that they were going to lower down, because at first I was like, maybe it'd be rad if they lowered down a styrofoam Stonehenge, but a Master Chief would have been all rad. But if there was like some irony to it and it was all like tilted, but then if it like knocked her over and she fell into the water or something would have been kind of rad.
Unfortunately, Corporeal did not fail. But if you're a fan of failure, luckily the next act, which was Peter Moore and the creators of Rock Band coming out and playing Rock Band, there was tons of failure because Peter Moore died in the game, even though he was uneasy.
Right.
And he kept accidentally pausing the game, completely blacking out the game.
When he hit the pause, then the menu came up and the options were, resume, options, or restart. And he got so close to hitting restart, and you could tell they were like, don't do it, dude.
Oh, and he was trying to do lefty switch.
Yeah, the lefty switch thing.
Yeah.
But when you follow up, when you have 4 high school kids playing real instruments and doing this, then you followed up with a bunch of adults in a Fisher-Price like jamboree set, that already is like a weird way to kind of transition from...
Yeah, so 10 minutes in, it was kind of running on fumes. It could only go up from there.
But it far from went up. Oh, come on, dude. It went down significantly.
Well, okay, there were some good things, like Mass Effect, for example.
Yep. Okay, but you said it could only go up from there, and like the ultimate segue from that is to talk about what you knew as I don't even remember his name. What
Jeff
was that dude's?
Bell is who you're talking about.
Oh my God,
Jeff Bell, who is some kind of corporate. They're all corporate vice president. He was trying to sell his timeshares.
Really? Timeshares? Because I was thinking he probably had like a used car lot.
Either that or he's like a televangelist. He was too slick for used cars. The little sort of smug grin when he was saying things like, we have done over $125 million on Xbox Live.
Was that before or
Arcade.
after the I Love Golden Axe or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Well, he basically
I know we got some Golden Axe fans in the house.
He sounded like somebody who had way too much media training. He's like a slickster, like he is trying to sell you something, and it just didn't come off as genuine.
It really didn't help their image. And actually, I mean, some people complain that they think that Peter Moore is, too much of a spokesperson. But I mean, compared to anyone that has any kind of issues with Peter, which I think are somewhat unjustified, because I think he's fairly genuine. I mean, he did come up through marketing, but he really believes in in what he's doing.
Right.
But he looked like the most genuine, like, hardcore guy imaginable next to this guy. Oh,
Dude,
my
I sort of
God.
like Peter's approach. I mean, actually, like, this, like, really brought that into focus. Watching this guy up there, like...
I agree 100%.
Repulse me.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, you know what? Actually, I kind of like Peter. It's like he's like this cool guy who actually does really believe in it and has a, he gets excited about it.
People had their heads in that. You could see watching around. There were people, and not just journalists. There were executives from publishers, and they just had their heads in their hand while the guy was talking
the whole time. It was like the thing I would think is, in American Beauty, the other real estate agent the wife hooks up with.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. So the guy might be really good at what he does, but it was just a total misfit because you take someone who, like we said, really good at getting you to buy some timeshares, in a condo or something, but then you put them in front of like the dirtiest, dirtbag slime buckets, us or me, and then we're like, we're so hard to please. We're going to be critical of everything. We're just there to laugh. Like half of them are just like filthy scavengers there to take the foam ass pads and put them on eBay when they're done, and then like that guy's supposed to sit over well with them.
Wait, I should have saved that. Those are on eBay.
Yeah,
of course they're on
I
eBay.
saw a guy. People that don't know what we're talking about, and because it was in a high school auditorium, it was just sort of like concrete steps we were sat on. And Microsoft had done these custom-made foam pads that had handles that had that kind of the J. Allard era Microsoft
concentric
circles and scrolly writing and I saw a guy walk out with like 12 of them.
Those guys. I wanted to stage there's To Catch a Predator. I wanted To Catch a Scavenger. Well, I told Jeff, I'm like, do you have a fucking camera? Give me your camera, because we had some in front of our feet, and I wanted to take a picture of anyone that did it and be like, excuse me, sir, we have your Xbox Live record, and it shows you never leave your house. Because you're not going fishing to put it on the board of your rowboat. You're not going to the ball game to smooth your ass out there.
The fat guy in front of me, about halfway through, he took an extra one because it wasn't enough padding. He did a double. Yeah, he did a double.
Was he doubling them up, or is it one for each cheek?
He doubled them up.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
Patrick looks repulsed.
This press conference wasn't about cushions. It was about games, and I feel they really played it too safe. They decided to focus on this year's lineup, and that's a smart decision in a way. But we already know about those games, and when the other two competitors aren't just focusing on this year, it makes them seem like they don't have things.
I have a theory on why they did it that way, and I think a lot of it was to do with the fact that with the reach that they had with this press conference, it was live on G4. There were a lot of people streaming it. It was very much. It felt like it was constructed around being a television event.
It was almost like an infomercial in a way.
And it was all about, this is, if you buy an Xbox 360 now, or if you have an Xbox 360 now, this is what you're going to be able to go out and buy over the next 3 months. And the only place where they broke that was Resident Evil.
And didn't we talk about this? I mean, isn't this about what we presumed would happen? Like they would show almost everything dedicated to dominating this holiday
But I
season.
thought at the end they would break away and to show a few things. And about halfway through, they're like, oh, here's a big list of games. Alan Wake, 2 Human, Fable 2. What was the fourth game? It was something really good. Another first-party game that we're excited about. Oh, Banjo 3. And they're like, those games will not be shown today. Like, these games you really want to see. Alan Wake is the game we've talked about many times you want to see. Like, just show us a small clip. Is it really that difficult to show us a small clip? Mm-hmm. Is it that difficult to announce something? The only games that were announced yesterday, 2 days ago, were Viva Pinata Party Animals, which we had talked about. Humanity Report. It looks good. It's by Chrome, the guys who made Ty. I think it looks good. It's very cutesy, and we'll see if it succeeds.
Hey, any game that has, belching... I mean, that wasn't burping. That was full-on belching to move things. That's going to be good.
Yeah. So it looks good. And the other one is Seen It, which is this movie trivia DVD game, which is
incredibly very popular.
It is, but it's a complete ripoff of Buzz, which is a PS2 party game that's coming over from Europe that's been successful for many years.
Almost the exact same
the controller that it comes packed with. It's like a buzzer for a game
big
show.
Red button.
So
it has the 4 face buttons.
The board game rip off this other game? Because Seen It's like a board game. Maybe that was
Does the Seen It board game have that same controller?
No.
It does
not. Seen It board game is like a DVD-based
game.
thing.
So I'm pretty sure this.
So you just use your remote to play.
I'm pretty sure this is copying Buzz. I mean, we may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's right. But would it have killed them to announce 1 or 2 more games? Really?
Well, they had Gears of War, but someone fucked that up.
Who was that?
It was that was supposed to be an announcement.
You're skipping ahead to PC. I'm talking just 360 right now, and I
did enjoy my moment in the sun there when the Resident Evil 5 video that you told me wasn't going to be there went up on the screen.
Capcom had guaranteed that it wasn't going to be there, and I was so happy to see it because it's a really cool trailer. And
it's awesome.
And
trailer.
Sony showed a different recut of it today at their press conference, and I guess the full version is coming online in about 2 weeks. I'm very looking forward to that.
Dude, are you kidding me? They get creepier every time somehow. That was
There was something unsettling about that, though. I mean, because it was like Resident Evil Hotel Rwanda.
Well, I know. It's also
because if this was the first game in a series, it wouldn't be so bad to have a bunch of like zombie starving Africans come out for you. But it's like, of course, they've established that like, okay, there have been American, white American and Japanese
Spanish
and Latino characters, and everyone else is like they all just become these flesh hungry monsters. But it was weird to see that representation of a bunch of Africans coming at the character. It was like part of me was like, this is weird. An American company probably wouldn't do this.
Are they playing into like a fear of black people? Of
course. And I don't think at all.
People brought that up. I mean, I'm not saying that's something I thought of, but like other people have mentioned this.
They're not, but it's there though. I think it's just we're so conditioned to like be aware of the realities of our world that
I think what they did was they looked at like, wow, setting this in a remote third world country, which we're just assuming is Africa, but it definitely probably is like some part of Africa, is just, it's so remote, it's so removed from like help, so you can definitely feel completely isolated and stranded there. Very foreign setting.
Well, Brian has a theory, since the zombies run in this one, and like who are better runners than like people Africa.
Oh, dude.
Look the marathons and stuff. All right?
John is so stirred.
I'm like,
Resident Evil Kenya.
There's scientific
Move on.
Anyway.
But it looked awesome.
I thought it looked awesome. And those sickles that guy was holding, oh my God, those look.
Well, so I think the big winner yesterday, besides RE5 at Microsoft, was Call of Duty 4. They showed a really cool level, and like a lot of it. And then people are like, well, should they really show that before they show Halo 3? I don't know.
They shouldn't have, especially when the animation was so good. The character movement is so fluid and convincingly lifelike. And when they show Halo 3, and after they just got done showing Spider-Man friend or foe, and when the alien picks up the human in a Halo trailer and throws him, and it looked like the cheesiest like licensed movie animation, like no weight whatsoever to it, just really
Halo trailer they showed
really bad.
Which one? The Weta live action teaser or the trailer at the end?
The trailer for Halo 3.
You don't like it?
I don't think it did the game justice because about an hour after the press conference, I went and saw Halo single player playing, and it really is very impressive looking. But the way that trailer was cut, you weren't able to fully see. There's a lot of subtlety to it. It's not as beat you over the head with how good looking it is the way Gears of War is. There's a lot of subtlety to the way that it's using particles and dust and things in the environment and the way the lighting is. Because they showed it later on, they showed us there was a fight where it was you and a bunch of Marines fighting with the Arbiter through a jungle, and then eventually getting to there's like this dock by a river, and there's a pelican. There's a firefight between a pelican and a bunch of the Covenant, and then it crashes, and it's like a big set piece. But the stuff where the light is coming through the trees, and the way that the lighting changes, and everything is lit, and everything is shadowed, and there's like dust and stuff flying in the air, and it looked gorgeous. But
it was quick cuts. You couldn't.
Right, you need to be able to absorb all the subtlety in the environment. It's that kind of high def, as opposed to the really obvious like crazy textures and like real high contrast.
It was cut way too quick, and that was the frustration for me. Is that I know everybody who came back from getting a chance to play Halo 3, which was a pretty small group, was like really thrilled by how much better the single player game looked than the multiplayer beta had looked. Well,
we also saw Sandtrap, which is like a sort of desert multiplayer thing, and it's not. I mean, people have been like, "Oh, the single player looks better than the multiplayer." They've upgraded the graphics definitely since the beta, and this one, Sandtrap, is this huge arena. It's out in the desert, and there's these ruins, and there's like wind kicking through the environment the whole time, so there's sand in the air the whole time as well. So it gives it a really kind of gritty, sort of like much more movie-like feel to it.
See, so why did they cut that trailer like that? Because if that's the only thing that they're going to have out in front of the larger audience, even the larger audience of journalists that are here, why did they cut
we're
it so fast?
Close to the release. I mean, we're going to see more commercials. We're going to see more media. It's not like this game.
Close to the release or not, a lot of people wanted to see it. A lot of people want to talk about it.
I think what really happened was they rushed that trailer because they're so close to the end, and they didn't have the time to pour over it and to sync it to the music the way they normally do. And what they should have done, rather than, I mean, it takes a long time to cut a trailer like that and to get the footage that they need. What they should have done is spend a couple of minutes and just play the damn thing in front of everybody.
Right? Absolutely, that would have been fantastic.
Well, what about the Weta live action video they showed? I thought it was impressive, but ultimately kind of worthless.
I don't understand why they did it.
I mean, it's cool.
All it
for
does
the world
is underscore like how derivative all the design is from Aliens. When you see it live action, when you see those suits on what look like human people, and when you see the pelican and stuff, you're like, wow, they really did rip 100%. All these dropships, all this armor is all definitely from that movie.
Well, that's depressing.
I just had to point out, I was making fun of like how it's like He-Man, but like a couple of the new characters they showed were so bright. All I remember in my head is like a patch of red and blue and green or whatever, and it was like they looked pretty silly to me, especially after the follow-up from like Call of Duty, which was super saturated and just like
now. Actually, speaking of Call of Duty, because I saw another trailer that was a lot more colorful. Now, is the demo that they showed with the one that was set 15 years ago? Is it all bleached out like that because it's in the past? Is that kind of a visual metaphor that they're using?
Depressing like Chernobyl,
or is it a depressing Chernobyl because it's in a radioactive environment?
It was an aesthetic call for the Chernobyl Pripyat environment because
it was a very reduced color palette, but effective.
Well,
it was a sniper thing, and camouflage was everything. And so, what better way to get the effect when the guy rises up in his ghillie suit, and you're like, "Whoa! I didn't even notice that was."
Right. I know I wasn't the only person who, when that guy rose up out of the weeds in his ghillie suit, you were like, "Holy crap! That guy was standing there."
Right.
So I was talking to the producer today, and he said, we've actually played around with that before and turned that guy's cue off and walked around him, and it's amazing, like how fully camouflaged he is, and you really can't see him, even though he is really there in the grass, and it's not faked at all.
I gotta say, that level also didn't seem quite as pedestrian and predictable. Like at the end, they're crawling towards this huge number of troops.
Well,
what's going to happen?
You just triggered a trap.
You triggered a trap. No, just because, again, I touched on it on last week's show, but where I think that people are like, and I'm super happy that they are drawn to it, that normally don't care about combat games, but aren't noticing what I'm noticing. So, for example, traditionally in the Call of Duty series, what they'll do is they'll have a really linear layout and a snaking path that you follow, and they'll keep you on it rather than having erecting arbitrary walls or visibly arbitrary walls. They'll say, here's a minefield, and we're going to throw these warning signs. What they did this time, if you noticed, you could see the contours of the path, and they were with radiation warning signs, which was especially kind of weird because, of course, radiation doesn't work that way.
Right.
Don't I dare you to put your foot over that line, and you could see that, and I could still very much see that this is, like I was saying, this is a Call of Duty game, but at the same time, I'm completely impressed by it too. But I think when people do play it, they will see, okay, there's a lot of stuff that, like, it's pretty familiar.
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw two more aspects of it today. For one thing, at the Activision press conference, they showed another trailer, and this was called Charlie Don't Surf, and it was crazy. It was exactly like that scene in Apocalypse Now with a air cav assault on a coastal town. It looked very much like it was probably somewhere in the Middle East. The helicopters came through, came over the ocean really low, came across the beach and into the town. There was RPG rocket fire, coming up through the helicopters. They went deeper into the town. It was like some sort of strike mission. And then when they get to wherever their landing zone is going to be, they cleared out the area with a couple of gunships. They rappelled down into the city and then started an assault. And they went through the rest of his assault on this whatever building. I guess they were thinking like a communications center. That was really impressive. And then they're showing it. They're demoing it being played. I mean, unfortunately, apparently they have some other obligations, so they're not allowing hands-on right now for anybody in the press to play. But they're playing it in front of us, and it is so dialed in. The level that I saw was working through an urban area, and it's just amazing how much is going on.
You'd seen it all before, or
no? It's not. No. It wasn't a scene I'd seen before. It was going through a shelled out area. You had to outflank some positions that were in a building where guys were keeping you pinned down. You switched into your night vision for a while because you were inside a bombed out building. It was dark. Then you going outside of Starlight, had to come out of night vision. What impressed me the most about it is much like you had in Call of Duty 2 is just the amount of actual action that's going on while you're there in the battlefield. So it's really, really dynamic. There's a ton going on. We're talking about the engine. The engine is so freaking gorgeous.
Well, but there's a lot of talk about which versions, because all three versions are being shown here: PC, PS3, and 360.
This was 360 I was looking at.
They're showing the 360 primarily, and so it's going to look good across all.
So I started grilling him a little bit. I started grilling the producer a little bit on the game, and one of the things I pointed out to him, I said, it's amazing, how much stuff you have. I mean, lights you have in here. I mean, how much of this stuff is faked in the background. And what he said is that everything in the game is done in engine and not faked in and not drawn in the background. So even when you're standing there, it's like you're standing standing there in this parking lot, and there's like a bridge, a quarter mile away that has street lamps on it, and every one of those street lamps is actually a real light source casting shadows with the full effects system on it and everything.
They're not using skyboxes or anything like that, but the thing is like you were saying how dynamic all those moments are, and to me that's just describing like perfectly scripted moments, and it's all from like the EA Medal of Honor school where, when we play the various EA games and like all of a sudden, a Mustang flies in, drops its bombs on a Panzer or something, the bridge blows up and you go on, and that stuff's really cool. But it's interesting because we moved in this split where you have, we'll talk about Crisis later, but you have Crisis on the other end,
right.
And then the Battlefield type experience where when something crazy happens, you're like, okay, I put a tranquilizer on a guy, he got in the chopper, I let him get up, and then I put him asleep and watch the chopper go down. And here you're like, here comes the armada of Cobras, they're ripping through the city and stuff. But the thing is when you play that again, you're going to notice that those Cobras are going to come in to the Ride of Valkyries playing in your head in the exact same fashion, and that's very much a show that's being put on for you.
I wasn't talking about anything like over the top dramatic happening. I was just talking about the amount of firefight that was going on around you between your troops who are pinned down and trying to maintain cover and the guys who are firing on them. There's just a lot going on in the world.
So do you think this has a chance to be game of the show? I mean, people have been saying that, but from what you saw,
I think it definitely has a chance to be game of the show. And here's the other point, because we've talked about this a lot on the show, is how much trouble developers have had with PS3 development. And this just goes to show you how a good engine team can overcome problems that others can't overcome. I asked them, if they'd had any trouble because they're showing it so much on 360 and PC. How's the PS3 version coming? They're like, oh, it's fine. And I said, well, so it's fine and running at 30 frames. And the producer flat out looked at me like I was a jackass and was like, no, anything less than 60 frames is totally unacceptable. I'm like, so how'd you handle the port coming over from 360? He's like, we programmed it.
It was totally awesome.
He wasn't being a dick about it. He was just being like, well, we just, that's what we do. We had to make it work, so we did it.
Well, that's enough COD.
We talked a lot about Call of Duty when we were going to talk about the press conferences. So there was a lot of stuff on.
There was a lot of games.
Something else indicative of the way that I think they dropped the ball was with Assassin's Creed. Ostensibly an excellent game, but what happened again there is that you're like, this isn't a showing for just a few journalists. This was the world stage, like you were saying. Everyone was watching. It was televised, and
little cutie Jade Raymond, she was there.
And they had her, but they had essentially what was a segment of the game that they were working on and just making perfect to go on stage, and then what happened was all kinds of technical errors and stuff. Of course, it started off, the guy's on like a minaret diving board, and she's like about to tell you how realistic the environmental action is, and then he like does a Greg Louganis into a hay basket, and everyone, she's like, oh yeah. And then the next move, there's like a centipede of women with pots on their heads walking by, and then while remaining 5 feet away, he's somehow bumping into them, and then the pots fall off and vanish before they hit the ground.
That part right there was my estimation of this game dropped a full notch right there during that segment, because he's not even near them. He's gesturing like he's hitting them, but he's 3 feet away.
Yeah.
They're gesturing like they're being hit, but they're 3 feet away.
It's a contact improv.
There were other big problems, like when you're walking through these crowded city streets, whatever person who you're focused on, there's this really strange like techno filter on them. They're glowing and there's like words flying around
them.
Everybody that you look at,
and it takes you out of the game entirely.
Brian and I were talking about that when we were walking
they
back.
Have to tone that down.
They've got to come clean. The time has come to come clean about the whole story. Whatever it is, stop pussyfooting around it, answer the questions, or at least lay out something, because otherwise, like if you're in the age of the Crusades and people are covered with Matrix-y style digital crap, it's completely distracting.
But when it is good, like when in the demo they were chasing the person who tried to assassinate through their city streets and interacting with crowds, it was briefly very cool and evocative. And
where it wasn't cool and evocative was when they messed up and the guy they were chasing stopped and waited for them.
No, explain.
They explained that's part of his AI routine.
Yeah, of course, because he was scared and ran away, but after he was being scared and ran away, he decided he was cocky and wanted to wait for you.
And also, I don't quite understand the combat yet. I haven't played it. Matt Leone played it. He said the combat was a little confusing.
It looked janky to me.
It looked like it was basically press the button to queue up a pretty animation of you killing someone while the guys behind you sit there and wait for you to. It's definitely not the Ninja Gaiden school of attack, block, attack, block. I mean, it was like go up, press your button, and watch your fantasy.
Yeah, that was like a scene out of a Wuxia movie, wasn't it? It was like dude falls into the middle of 5 guys, and instead of them jumping him, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna stand in line. I'm gonna take my turn to get killed."
Yeah, like just talking shit. But get him, dude, get him,
get him.
And like the world was very big and impressive. However, there was some texture fill happening, and like it needs some polish
because they can fix that. The parts that really concerned me out of this was the combat seemed weird, disjointed, button pressy, and like not really satisfying, and then like the crowd AI. The crowd AI is supposed to be a big deal. How did this dude run through this crowd and create all that chaos and not have to do
crowd
anything?
Clones is going to be a problem too. You just like can't. You got to do something to them because I mean, look what I was saying when I said a centipede of like jar-bearing women.
Oh,
you got to like mix up the character models a little more than that, you know. But the thing that worked that did look good though is all the free running stuff. That looked really fun. You know, I mean, just navigating that big environment. You know, jumping from here.
All right. So overall on Microsoft.
Well, I mean, I think they played it too safe with the Xbox 360, and then when you get to the PC stuff, like, it didn't look like a very exciting time to be a PC gamer to me. Well, based on what they showed in the reel.
Well, dude, that's because they showed 2 minutes of B-movie, and then, like, again, it was like deja vu and showing you the Spider-Man game. You had nothing against Spider-Man, but, I mean, when you're trying to define, for the audience that was there, you're trying to define PC platform as being valid, then you don't sneak in 30 seconds of some of the most amazing Crisis footage that they've shown and make us go, like, oh, sick, and then like all of a sudden it's B-movie again, you know, and then a lot of this the reputation for kiddie games and just PC being the waste bin for development, you know.
Do you guys think that they did that to not upstage Halo 3 with Crisis?
Well, but then
they could have very
Gears,
easily upstaged Halo 3 with Crisis. I can say that
that's true.
after my
But Gears
experience.
PC looked really, really good, you know?
And that did look great. And they did and I think dude, I think the Gears upstaged. The fight with the Brumac upstaged the Halo snippet they showed. That's not to say it's a better game.
It was impressive.
But I
mean,
think that looking at it, I was like, wow, I understand. And like you were saying, John, I mean, if someone was playing. It was Cliffy playing that part. And you're like, I understand how this works. This looks really cool. And it wasn't just this MTV, like,
right, you had the context that the Halo trailer did not.
Yeah.
Give you.
All right, so real quick, what'd you walk away from Microsoft thinking, John?
I mean, mainly that they've got a really solid. There's a bunch of games this year for 360 that I do want to play, like Mass Effect, and you know, there's a bunch of good stuff. But in terms of here's looking to the future for 360. I mean, there was no visibility on that at all. But it was all about this holiday.
Shane?
Shawn, the live arcade montage was a highlight for me. Like most everything they showed through there looked really awesome and made me want to like buy some Shane bucks on.
I don't think
Xbox
Marathon
Live.
looked good.
Oh, it doesn't look good, but I mean, it's a very
all
good
the
game.
other games. It was like they showed just enough to say that looks pretty interesting.
Well, yeah, there's some
like,
there's a cool looking marble game. There's some good looking puzzle
games and puzzle games and stuff, and it looked like, hey, this looks like cool stuff.
But
it wasn't Golden Axe and it wasn't Sonic.
That's true, but
those were the things.
I'll
Like,
say,
don't put the Sonic
as someone who
logo
doesn't
on the screen.
understand what's so great about Marathon, that clip did not explain to me what's so great about Marathon.
I mean, it's never been a beautiful game.
It's going to be a nostalgia fest.
Yeah.
Shane?
As I said, like they have a very solid lineup, and that's what they focused on. But as what John said, I needed some more 2008. I needed some things to get me excited for next year on this console.
Well, I'm hoping they have some stuff to do in 2008, but it's really hard to argue with their lineup, and this is something that we talked about like a couple of weeks ago. They do have a very bang, 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 bang holiday season coming up where every month they have like a potentially, oh my God, blow it out the door, amazing AAA title.
See, I think they have 3.
Yeah.
Those being Mass Effect, Call of Duty, Halo.
And that little game, what's it? Oh, that's right, Grand Theft Auto. Come on, guys.
That's a perfect storm.
Seriously.
That's a really good lineup.
And Madden is still huge.
We were more thinking first party, to be honest.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to add that like they showed a new Lost Odyssey trailer, and it looks a lot better than it did TGS. I'm still not really sure if it's really coming out in December like they claim. I'm doubtful on that, but it's looking a lot better.
Yeah, it's looking a lot better from the extent that it really, really, really looks like Final Fantasy now. Not that it didn't before, but it really looks like Final Fantasy now.
It doesn't look like a bad game, like which is what it was at TGS.
Well, at TGS the demo was just empty. Anyway, all right. So don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to hook up on Nintendo and Sony. Patrick's going to grab a mic, and we'll say goodbye to Shawn.
I'll come back later so I can go in deeper and go in harder, like in the last segment.
Tomorrow you should go
quote.
Yeah, tomorrow you should go in really deep on some of the best Croatian games you played or whatever.
Okay, sounds good. And I'm out.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This One Up podcast is brought to you by Windows Media Center. Your Xbox 360, your music, your photos, your TV shows, and your videos with one connection.
All right, we're back and ready to hit the other two big of the big.
Wait.
three.
We actually forgot a giant hardware announcement at Microsoft that was so exciting. We
that's
somehow forgot
right.
about it.
The fourth 360 that was so exciting on the pedestal.
Yeah, the Halo 3 limited edition. I actually think it's pretty because I like orange and
But it's got
green.
the Halo etching and stuff on it. I don't know if you.
But yeah, when Peter Moore held it up, like no one cheered, and we were like,
He was a little straining a little bit. Like he was like, "I'm trying to get it out of here," and then like he tried to crack a joke at the end and it just didn't work.
amazing I could kill it with
that was Patrick, who now has a mic. Patrick's here with us.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
hello.
Welcome to the
I've
show.
joined.
Welcome to the show,
That was
Patrick.
before. I was just waving my hands
But
around.
yeah, the Halo 3, people not that excited about.
Yeah, obviously Microsoft doesn't care that much either because they put a 20 gig hard drive on it.
Oof.
No,
Anyway,
I guess some people might care about.
it's got
the new,
HDMI 20 gig. It's got the
new wireless
The
headset.
Halo
tech.
branding's not really obnoxious. I saw one last night when I went to see Halo. They had one there.
Is it just like faded, or like?
It's a bit like the Halo Zune. So like on the top side of it, there's a sort of the Halo like sort of liner, and then it's got the logo, and then the stuff that's normally chrome on a premium is this sort of copper color. And then the hard drive, all of the chrome stuff on the hard drive is copper colored as well, and it has the Halo logo on that strip in the middle of the hard drive.
Is it more expensive than a premium?
They don't know the price. The Bungie guys don't know the price. What they
But
do
if
know.
you have a mind to buy something like that, aren't you the kind of person who like buys premium kit? So wouldn't you want to have the big hard drive and not just the little cheesy 20?
You can buy it as a $179 accessory.
Yeah.
It's not like there isn't a solution to this problem.
Well, from one
brother.
disappointment to another, we next attended the Nintendo press conference.
I was like try to be the person that like I really do love my Wii, and like I don't have a problem with the casual games, and like I don't have a problem with Nintendo's approach, but like I was just like I live blogged the event, and it was just like terrible.
Last year they had an amazing press conference where we all got sold. And we all came out like converted. You know?
Well, I think it's really telling that like last year they had to convert us because like they have this brand new concept and someone needs to buy it that first week, and that was the hardcore. Now everyone else is buying it, so why would they cater to us? So they just ignored us.
They instead decided to show us about 20 minutes of YouTube. Apparently.
Yeah, that was kind of strange.
Yeah, it was like, hey, Nintendo, aren't we great? Let's show a bunch of YouTube videos and like headlines, and it was just like, get old. But like that was every transition, like every 10 minutes, it was like 30 or 40 seconds of like Nintendo headlines. We're selling great, no shit.
And yeah, as we predicted, they talked about how well they're doing it because they're doing really, really, really well. And they also talked about how they're bringing in all these new gamers, like older women gamers. They talked about grandmas. Grandmas were discussed as we predicted.
And I'm with you. I'm down with the casual stuff, and but I honestly thought they were going to balance it better. Like Mario
at least
Galaxy,
like a big reveal at the end. Like
I mean,
like new Miyamoto IP was like there'll be something like a teaser, like something's coming in 2008. Like we've already got the 2007 lineup like established. We know what's coming, but like there was nothing, and they just tried to like trapeze through it, and it was just insulting.
Well, the big reveals were mostly non-games. Meanwhile, the core games were kind of shuffled by. Like Mario Kart Wii gets mentioned in passing, shown in a small video. It doesn't look that great. It looks like a GameCube game, as predicted, and it looks simpler. It looks like they took a lot of the complexity from Double Dash that I enjoyed out of the game.
Yeah, there's no extra layer to it. It's just like here's like a GameCube Mario Kart with online play.
It does have online play, which is good. But then Reggie was like, here's a way that will even the playing field for expert players and new players, and revealed what was ostensibly the same little fake steering wheel you slot your controller in that Ubisoft had at launch, where now you can now play, with a little steering wheel.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. I was like, this is already out there. Like, what's the...
What? Garnett wasn't there, but he hadn't heard about this.
Oh,
so
yeah.
there is now a Wii-branded wheel that is just a white plastic
And
wheel
as he
with
was
a
holding
Wii
it
logo.
up, like, for the photographers, like, he, like, turned it around. It's got the Wii logo
Wait,
on
this
it.
is actually the second peripheral they announced. The first one was cooler. It's the Zapper attachment where you...
Yeah, okay, so look, because, damn it, I hate the fact that, like, people get upset about us hating on the Wii, because I don't think any of us here really hates the Wii.
And I love Mario Kart.
Yeah, and a lot of us grew up playing Nintendo games. We really love Nintendo games, but... Really, he showed the Ubisoft plastic steering wheel thing with a Wii branding on it? To play Mario
Kart? It's
bundled
with the game now and stuff like that, and it's I don't know.
That's not what Mario Kart's about. Mario Kart is about the jump slide turn. It's not about.
And I am
driving with a steering
concerned
wheel.
of how many buttons you'll be able to access. Like I'm thinking the most would be 3.
Yeah, we were trying to work it out earlier because you like when you and with the same with the Ubi wheel, and you slot that thing across the so it's the middle bar of the wheel,
right?
to reach the A button is essentially in the middle, so that you'd have to a bit of a reach around to get it. So you're looking at the 1 and 2 button, and then the trigger on the back,
Right.
and that's your lot. Which for old Mario Kart is fine, but anything like Double Dash, which got more complicated.
Trailer didn't show they're going that direction.
Well, yeah, the trailer looked very simple. I felt.
Anyway, I didn't mean to break in there, just because that just blows my mind that then you don't even worry about a steering wheel for Mario Kart. I mean, Mario Kart is just it's a whole other sort of driving.
Well, it was a weird conference because they kept bouncing around from DS to Wii, from non-game to serious game, and then there were things like this video of a family, this suburban family in Texas, that somehow Nintendo had chosen to play all their games that I wish we could play. Like, oh, this family has Mario Sunshine. I wish I could play Mario Sunshine.
Galaxy.
Oh, that's what I meant, Galaxy. Well,
You've already played Mario Sunshine.
yeah, I said. Well, I just did that because I actually went and played Mario Galaxy
I
today.
was gonna say we were talking about this. Like, it looks like a lot like Sunshine.
And yeah, this is gonna piss a lot of people off, but I got to say I was a little disappointed. And I played it last year, and there were some changes. There's now a 2-player thing throughout. Like that was surprising to me. So the second player with a nunchuck can control this little cursor on screen or with a Wiimote, and take these little chips you collect as Mario. So the first player collects these chips, and the second player can spend those chips to stun enemies or deflect shots, and you can also pick up chips. So it's a cool way for like your little brother or like your girlfriend or whatever to be like, oh, I'm playing with you. So I like it. I think it's actually a good addition.
Mm-hmm. It's not like a true co-op. It's just kind of like if someone's in the room and
but while we were playing, Jeremy kept accidentally like stunning me because you can also stun Mario, and I'd be trying to like hit an enemy, and he tried to like collect a coin, and he instead stunned me, and I was like, quit! Like he didn't mean to. So
did you play it single player? Like, is that disappointing?
The control is great, and the graphics are attractive for a Wii game. Like it has some good looking stuff, but the level design, it doesn't do it for me. Like a whole level we played was 2 of those little planetoids, and they're really small, and like it felt to me smaller than any level in Mario 64.
So do you not like it because it's small, or because it's kind of weird?
Well, the weird doesn't really bother me because I liked Mario Sunshine because it was weird too. And, this is very much the same way. Like the space theme, there's all these different characters. There's like fairy princess you've never met before. And, it feels very different. But, yeah, like it doesn't feel like real worlds. And that's kind of what I thought. Like you feel like you're on these little planets and you go inside of them and you're always like walking on ceilings, and the camera is kind of hard to move around. You don't have a lot of control over the camera. But, the basic gameplay is really fun. I played the Bumblebee suit. That's fun. You're flying around. It's really good. I'm sure we
have now talked about Mario Galaxy more than Nintendo did today.
Exactly, and like
that's the saddest part.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and they kind of passed. It was in passing at the press conference.
It was like, and Mario, it was in the middle of the press conference. It wasn't a climax to anything.
It was during one of the transition things. Like they showed this family playing Mario Galaxy. Like it was not brought up at all during the conference. They announced the release date. It's coming in November.
Now
like that's it.
That I would never have guessed. I mean, that's like. It's like Disney not talking about Mickey Mouse.
Well, yeah, and as I was playing it, it was this weird combination of, wow, I'm playing a new Mario game, and that's great, but, this isn't exactly what I would have wanted, but it's great. Yeah, but I'm definitely of 2 minds of this game, and like I haven't quite come to terms.
They seem to feel that we would all be more impressed by the dates that they dropped on this and Smash Brothers. They would like those classic press conference moments where we're like, we are pleased to announce that this game will be available, and we Smash Brothers December 3rd, and it was like complete silence.
Yeah, pause for applause.
Well, while I was live blogging, like I could see the teleprompter and like I could see the speech coming like a couple seconds ahead of time. Like there'd be like slight pause and then like long pause and then like before the Smash Brothers review it was like very long pause and like nobody cared because you're like, he gets this big build up and we're pleased to finally announce the release date, and it's like you think he's gonna say like next month or like September, and it was December after the sales season. Like what
his
the
build
hell?
up was not next year, not next spring, and you're like, he's building up to this like not
tomorrow.
It's gonna be tomorrow,
it's out.
or
You
like
can
next
pick up
week.
copies on your way out.
But no, December 3rd, and you're like, oh.
And actually, what really bummed me out was like they tried to like trumpet up like online play, and like we can talk about like the disappointments there, but like Smash Brothers was completely not mentioned at all. And like at this point, I'm willing to believe like Smash Brothers like does not have online play at this point, and it's been removed.
Well, I mean, we mentioned the zapper attachment, which I also got to play. I got to play Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles with the zapper, and I do like the zapper. Like, it changed the game and made it more fun because it feels almost like an FPS because you're looking around and you're shooting. The only thing I don't like about it is there's almost no force feedback. I think maybe the Wiimote was vibrating a little tiny bit, but you couldn't really feel it, and the game doesn't give you a very good indication of when you're shooting things. So, like, a lot of times I was shooting with a machine gun, and I just kind of felt like, am I hitting things? Can't really tell.
So it turns your Wiimote into a super scope.
It does, but you have the nunchuck to move around, so that's
a bad
I think it's
thing?
a little bit easier to hold than a super scope.
I think that's cool.
I think it actually has a lot of potential.
I didn't say it was a bad thing.
I thought you were just being disdainful. I'm sorry. I thought you were
I think the zapper is actually pretty cool, and I just wish that there was some way for it to rumble more. But and in Resident Evil, it's more fun than I thought it would be too. It's more fun with the zapper. The graphics are pretty good for a Wii game.
It's two-player co-op.
Yeah.
Branching paths.
Paths.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
For
I gotta
a
say,
shooter.
it's pretty. I'm impressed.
How does because it wasn't really obvious from the pictures, but because it's the Wiimote and the nunchuck wired together, and then both of them popped into this device.
Right.
So how does it facilitate the connection between? Is it like all threaded through little passageways, or is it a fairly clumsy?
It was all put together. Nintendo handed it to me. They told me not to take it apart. I don't know.
Oh.
maybe that's indicative of how fun it'll be put together.
There was one gameplay thing I didn't quite like the headshots in RE. Like you want to do them because it's a difference between one shot and 10 shots, but it's really small pinpoint. And when you do get there, it gives you a little representation by making your reticle really, really small all of a sudden. So you're all of a sudden your reticle's tiny, and you're desperately trying to hit it. So, but it's still good. I like it. And the other thing, the big reveal at the very end of the press conference was Miyamoto. He comes out here.
You're like, all right, this is it.
His new IP. We're all like,
it.
what's it going to be? Kid Icarus fighting Urban Champion?
At this point, there's still 20 minutes left in the conference. So it seems like there's going to be something really big going on.
And as we predicted many times, it's Wii Fitness. It's actually called Wii Fit.
Yes.
And what it basically is this yoga mat scale thing.
It's like a separate accessory that you stand on, and it's like having a stepping mat, but it's got accelerometers.
At
and
the press conference, the reveal not so good because it had three personal trainers up there. And it wasn't really working. And Miyamoto was like, "Oh, it's not really working the way it's supposed to. I'm sorry."
Please come play it. It really does work. And
yeah, they were doing these balances and stretches, and they were supposed to be showing.
There's a way that they were doing it correctly, but the sensitivity was off, or it was not collaborated, and it was just kind of it was already frustrating that it was 20 minutes long over this one reveal.
But you went and played it, right?
So I got to go play Wii Fit, and I got to say it does actually work, unlike at the press conference where it doesn't. So Jeremy and I played several of the exercises, and
some line dancing.
I did the balancing. I did. There's the heading soccer balls in. There's one where you're doing a ski jump. There's one where you're moving around some balls on a trying to get them through holes.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that's the coolest one. One of the coolest ones, you stand on top of the exercise mat or whatever they're calling it, and the way you move, your body weight is how you're shifting this table to get a marble in a hole. It's it's simple, but it's a cool use of
and the overall balance thing. When you first stand on this thing, it's a very strange feeling. You've never really done this.
Does it feel cheap? Is it just
no? It actually feels pretty solid. It's really big. Actually, it's large and it requires 4 batteries.
And what people need to understand about it, because from a lot of the videos, a lot of the exercises, there's a lot of yoga in the game, right? So there's a lot of people moving their arms around and doing things, and it can't pick up what your hands are doing. It's essentially a lot of the accelerometer functionality from the Wiimote in a pad. So it's essentially sensing where your weight shifts.
Right. Yeah. It's all about shifting your weight. It's the whole.
So unless you're following what they're doing, you're not going to get the full. It's not judging. If you put your arm. If you're just throwing your arms out, it doesn't know you're doing that. If you want the full effect.
So they might tell you to put your arms out because it'll help you with the steering, but that's why it's asking you to do arm movements. It's not picking up that you've moved your arms.
Right. But I will say, it was weirdly addictive, these strange tasks. And if I would fail at it, I'd be like, well, I can balance on one leg. Let me try that again. I wanted to do it again. I wanted to improve. But at the same time, it's not something I see myself
coming
playing
back and checking your graphs.
Well, I could see myself playing it a few times a week, but not something you would do for an hour.
I think we're going to see people doing other things with that controller, though. I mean, the obvious one is you turn it through 90 degrees, and it's a skateboard or a snowboard.
Sega had an arcade game, Top Skate. It'd be perfect for that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting addition. I think it's going to get a lot of positive press from the mainstream media because,
God, yes.
it is a yoga game.
That's why they spend so much time on. I mean, like next to where I was live blogging, like USA Today, like had a section where like they were going to stream the conference, and like they didn't show up, but like they USA Today had like set up with Nintendo to stream the conference, like to like know that they care enough to at least look into the possibility of streaming Nintendo's E3 conference, like shows. Nintendo did what they wanted to do.
Okay, so let's wrap up Nintendo here real quick because I want to make sure we get to Sony before we drag.
Well, I want to talk a little more Nintendo. I still have some more things to say, actually.
More?
I do, because we had said that this was going to be a show where core gamers are disappointed, and it was like instead of announcing Kid Icarus, they announced Yoga. I mean, they did, they really did, and everyone was like, oh wait, third parties are going to come through. No, they didn't. Third parties did not come through. Like third party games.
I'll believe it. I thought we were going to see those third parties at least announcing deals, saying they're doing.
I have the full list.
I thought we had 100 Wii
I have that list here. I mean, I can pull you. How about Garfield Gets Real? How
you don't
about
like Garfield?
George of the Jungle?
You don't like cats? He doesn't like cats.
Seriously, there are almost no serious core gamer games announced for Wii from third parties here.
Okay,
it's all casual or licensed, which we talked about a few months ago. Where if third parties were going to go anywhere initially, it was going to be the Wii is going to be the home for all the licensed properties. And
but I thought at least this E3 we'd see like some sort of commitment, like trying in another direction.
EA's casual games are good. I've heard from everybody who played the EA Wii stuff. It's casual,
it works.
But it's good. That's what I've heard. So I haven't seen those myself.
My Sims, I mean, it's it's different. It doesn't have that weird gangly Sims look. I mean,
that's kind of like what I'm hoping for, like something that's like somewhere in between. Like it's casual, but it's not like you can see yourself like enjoying it, and like something like Animal Crossing, like we're just not seeing stuff like that, and that was ultimately what I was most disappointed
and
about.
What we're getting this year is third parties saying yes, we need to get on board, but they're not ready to really show what it was because I don't think they were confident when the Wii was announced that this was going to be big. So now it's so huge.
They're scrambling. They're putting the teams together, but they don't have anything to announce.
What can we get out on Wii now so we can make some money?
Carnival games by Take-Two.
Yeah.
Well, another disappointment. I predicted that DS would be the show. Far from it. There's not much here.
Nothing.
And Nintendo has
like a focus training.
Focus training is actually pretty cool. That's the observation training. It's coming in October. And Nintendo also quietly announced Mario Party for DS.
Did they?
Professor Layton comes out December 3rd.
Oh, and some
that level 5 like obscure weird game. It's coming out here.
It's funny. Garnett just mentioned Nintendo Magic, which is like one of the non-games in Japan that teaches you card tricks. That was a flop and actually clearance. I saw it for like $10 in Japan. Like, why are they bringing that one here?
A clearance DS game in Japan.
But
so wait, we sort of scooted over it. Professor Layton, right?
Professor Layton coming out in America from Nintendo December 3rd. That's exciting.
That's great.
That is great.
You would have thought that they would maybe have mentioned that.
Yeah, just
put a logo up, say, look, level 5, like, and then people would have been like, yay, at least they're like trying. But
there's also a first-party Wii game that is coming out in October that was not mentioned. It's called Endless Ocean. I'm not sure what that is. Also, Fire Emblem has a date of November 5th as well.
Wait, didn't they show some like underwater ocean game at some point for Wii?
I think they had with dolphins like last year.
I think that's probably it, but
we wouldn't know they didn't talk about it.
Was absent that I know you were excited about, and I'm sure you're very disappointed. No Project Hammer.
I knew it. I knew someone had to bring it up.
Or Disaster Day of Crisis.
Oh, no,
not on the list.
No. They were both on like Nintendo's press site, like before they updated their press conference, removed completely from the schedule. Those games are gone and not
Project
coming
Hammer
back.
no more.
All right, so Nintendo, Bomb or Bomba?
I think they achieved what they wanted to, but I think for this event, I don't think it went down well. Wii Fit is going to be just huge, unless they charge some exorbitant amount for it. But even then, I think given how successful Guitar Hero was, then they could charge anything up to $90 for it and probably sell.
I think they have an excellent fall lineup for DS and Wii, but they didn't give me a lot of stuff to be excited about for next year.
No.
Yeah, mainstream outlets are going to eat this up, but like this is E3, like they should have thrown hardcore bone, and they didn't, and like it's just disappointing. Like they did what they wanted to do, and like that's great, but like I came out of it like upset and disappointed and ready for Sony to do something better.
All right, how about the Defense Force?
What are you talking about?
There doesn't need to be a defense force. Actually,
No. I mean.
Well, John turned to me during the.
When we sat next to each other at the conference, and like it was fairly clear within about 10-15 minutes that this was because like we were going in like. Someone has to pull out something or do something to make us feel like the whole event was worth coming to.
Coming out on Monday morning.
And I think Sony pulled it off.
They did.
Sony,
They
yeah.
did their homework.
They did their homework.
They took notes. They knew what people expected from them and what people didn't want from them, and they delivered what they needed to deliver.
They weren't corporate. They proved they have a great 2007 lineup, and they have games coming in 2008 that we want to see. We didn't see it from Microsoft.
Does that sound familiar to anybody?
What?
Does that sound familiar, what he said? I think it sounds kind of familiar to something I was saying.
Garnett was right. Who knew?
Who knew? I know. I mean, okay, so
Also,
I fully missed on Nintendo, apparently.
I also got to say, Shane was right. I mean, people say I'm always wrong. Unreal. Shane was right. Hayes. Shane was right. I called those.
Yeah,
They
but
were
you know
there.
what? Did you call them as exclusives or timed exclusives?
Timed exclusives.
All right, well, that's fair enough.
Well, so break into Sony. So
All right.
break down Sony for me, because actually I saw Mark Rain this afternoon, and we talked a little bit about the Unreal situation, and he said, you know what, look, we announced on PS3 as far as consoles in the first place. Where did you think we would be on consoles first? I mean, obviously, there's more to it than that.
Well, they described it as a multi-part agreement. And the first part is maximizing Unreal 3 engine finally for PS3, so games will stop. The games will stop being canceled that use it.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And UT3 is exclusive, and it's going to have
mod support,
mods from the PC
which
version.
is huge.
We'll be
And
working
I mean,
on
I was talking to Midway, and it's going to be totally open. Like there's going to be like a filter system, and it's not just going to be like upload whatever you want, but like it's not. I mean, they pointed out like this is an open platform, and like Epic has said all along with Unreal Tournament, like even when it was a 360 game, like they want to do mod stuff, and like that is what Unreal Tournament is. This is not Gears of War, like, and even Gears of War has a level editor now on the PC side, but like Unreal Tournament is about mods. Like this is like Quake shipping without something like that. Like that would be a monumental error, and like it's about the user experience, and like they're bringing that on. That makes me really, really excited.
And like for hardcore UT fans, I mean, it looked really good. And if you want like the mouse keyboard setup, there is this third-party controller called like the Razer FX that really is like a mouse and keyboard for PS3. It worked well for Resistance. I think it would work great for Unreal.
Well, so that was what we talked about, the modability, and that is really cool. The only filter they have to put on there is the internal memory limit of the PS3 being 512 meg. Other than that, he said, you'll even be able to. What was cool is you'll be able to make levels on your PC and share them with everybody.
And it's not even like you've got to like sit down and like port it to PS3. Like it's being built from the ground up for both platforms, where you just build it on PC and you dump it on like the filter system, and it's like YouTube. It shows up like X amount of hours later, and like you can download it. I'm sure they have like ranking systems and voting. Like it's going to be really, really cool.
Well, the only thing I can throw 360 fans out of that is that it is going to come to 360 next year.
Right.
And
same with Hayes.
And it won't come to 360 without that same functionality.
But in the same like. I'd say maybe it'll come and maybe we'll get like greatest hits packages, but I cannot see Microsoft opening up the platform for Epic and allowing them to just dump whatever users want.
I think we're going
to it would take a strong motivational force to get the Xbox Live team to start figuring out how to do user-generated content through the Live system.
And maybe this announcement was part of that.
It was applying pressure, because there's going to be pressure on the Gear stuff as well, because technically it's possible through Gears.
What do you know? So
the other big exclusivity announcement, which I had never heard of actually, was NCSoft, and I wasn't sure how big of a deal that is. If Lineage is that big of a deal, but I never thought, well, City of Heroes, that was a big deal.
Well, it's a mixture of like NCSoft hasn't said like what they're doing yet, and like even Sony's not really sure what they're doing. It's just kind of it's an exclusivity deal. Maybe we'll see like the Guild Wars team is like expressed an interest in doing something eventually. It's going to be a mix of original and new IP, so it sounds like we'll get something like we'll probably get Guild Wars. Like that's like their NCSoft's big game, or maybe it's like. Was it Tabula Rasa, like the new
Tabula
like?
Rasa.
Yeah,
I
like
doubt
maybe,
it'll be that. I think Guild Wars is
Guild Wars is like an action RPG. It's real simple. It's not actually an MMO. It's just like it's populated with a bunch of people. Everything's instanced. So it's probably like a port of that, and then like they're building something new from the ground up for the PS3.
Well, actually, we should take a break from PS3 and talk real fast about PSP, because I think PSP had like a crazy good showing. Like they showed that Sony is really competitive and really serious about fighting DS with with value added.
The
packages.
new device looks pretty interesting. I mean, they've cleaned it up a little bit.
And the TV out is pretty cool. I wasn't expecting
cool.
that.
Better battery life is cool.
New colors.
Yeah, I mean the silver didn't look great.
It actually looks more like sparkly. I was like thinking like bring that white one over that.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the Star Wars
one.
I gotta say the Star Wars pack, that's a good deal. That's a new game with the system. You're saving like $30, and like the Daxter one, you're ostensibly getting the gig stick for free with that.
Yeah. But I mean, it had a great showing. I mean, the Star Wars game, I'm sure, will be huge. There's a game that I cannot remember the name of.
Patapon?
Patapon.
I was talking. Patapon's not playable here. Apparently, it's a combination of it's a Japanese and French development team.
Because it has that sort of Loco Roco aesthetic, but a kind of
weird,
more strategic, sort of Lemmings, wormsy kind of gameplay.
Yeah, it was very bizarre, but it was nice to see stuff like that. It's supposed to, what is it? Like Echochrome, like weird stuff, like out of nowhere.
I want to play that. I think I would rather play Echochrome on PSP.
Which is coming out for as well.
It's coming out on both platforms.
Yeah, if you hadn't seen Echochrome, it's just like avant-garde, like MC Escher puzzle.
It's out of their Japanese studio.
It's like Crush mixed with MC Escher almost.
Yeah, it was very Crush, like where you're like changing perspective and you're dropping and bouncing around, but like it's.
Have you seen any? Because Garnett wasn't there. So what it is it's a completely white screen, and everything is just black line art. So the initial level they show you is a very simple like Escher type illustration that you can rotate. So there's a break in it, and if you rotate it, the break goes away. So whereas in Crush, you're taking a 3D thing and spinning it until when you flatten it into 2 dimensions, you'll be able to progress. In this, as you rotate it in 3 dimensions, if you cover up any gap in the environment, it then applies
the level
the
design
Escher
changes
rules.
as you're.
But it's just black line art.
How do you control it?
Well, you control a little guy who has to walk around, and he's based on one of those little artists posing dolls, the little wooden things. And you walk the guy around, and you have to get from one point on the illustration to the other. And they start off really simple, and then it gets incredibly complex because you'll drop through a hole, and then you'll land somewhere unexpected because it messes with the perspective, and then you have to rotate things until you can eventually like get through all the checkpoints or whatever. And it's like it's very different. It's very avant-garde. It's like it's only black and white. I mean, it's
kind of cool kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I want to see.
Yeah,
And
well, the PSN stuff, it ran the gamut from that to like Warhawk and SOCOM, which are very full-featured next-gen style games, to these more simple, weird, cool things like Flow and so.
And Wipeout HD.
Wipeout!
It looked a lot better than I thought. Like it wasn't just high res.
I was sold
really
the
nice.
second. I'm sold.
Yeah,
I love
looks really,
How
really
did
good.
it look a lot better than you thought?
Wipeout. I will say it looks better than Fatal Inertia, and I'm not kidding.
It's extremely sharp. What they took is they took the aesthetic from the older games, and they just rather than going crazy. I mean, it is a sort of Wipeout 1.5 kind of product,
right?
But the way they compensated for that is by it's like super clean, super high res, almost flat.
I'm not doubting that. What I'm saying is, how is that a surprise? I'm not surprised that the Wipeout team made a really, really cool looking game.
Right. Well, I think it was the stories that it was more of a 1.5 product that people were thinking it was going to be like an up-res PS2 game.
They're making a real one, so I wonder like, well, how good is what will that look like?
Something else I was really pleased with. They showed some. Actually, they launched it from home, so we can talk about home again in a minute. But they showed the next download pack from MotorStorm, where now MotorStorm really is finished because one of the tracks. It's a completely new track that's like a figure 8 with banked corners and a bunch of new vehicles that they're throwing into it as well. And it looked great. And I went up and I played it really briefly. And there's like a school bus and these little buggies.
Is this a giveaway or a charge?
It costs money.
It'll cost, yeah. I believe, because the time trial was free, but
that's
this is going to cost.
The track pack is going to cost.
But it's like, it's in a different part of the valley.
Next generation game design. Make it 70% finished, put it out, and sell the rest on
But it does look very good. But they launched this new MotorStorm level from home. So he walked into, they've revamped a lot of the UI, and the sort of central hub is no longer a shopping mall. It's like a big open space. And they went to Phil's house in home, and there was a bunch of people there, and he said, okay, let's play some multiplayer MotorStorm, and it just launched straight. It doesn't just launch MotorStorm; it launches directly into the multiplayer thing with the people that you were with already there.
So it's clean, nice and smooth.
It's a very clean transition.
It's clean. I just hope like developers take it. It's not like home will just figure out like
the game's got to have the
games
for it.
have to be designed with it. And
so what it does is it hooks you into the multiplayer thing. Then you play in a lobby that's pre-populated with the people that you were just with, assuming they all had the MotorStorm disc in. And then when you quit out, you're back in the house with the people again.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, it looked good, and the graphics in Home look like they've been upgraded again. It's got like lots of sort of bump map looking things in the environment now, and then they showed
you can now run. It still takes a while.
I messed around with it for like 20 minutes, and like you can't run. Like I tried all of the buttons, and like it's still a little janky as far as like the interface, but like it's getting there, and it's not launching till.
But it's clear they're going to iterate the shit out of this thing. I mean, there's
they
like
showed
no telling
the
what they're
mobile
going to do with it. Yeah,
and like, but it was actually kind of cool because like you didn't really know where like, you know, Phil Harrison was like going with that. Like he
took a picture of the
crowd. Took out a Sony Ericsson phone that had like the
XMB on it.
Yeah, and like he went through it, took a picture, and then like logged back into his home, and it had been automatically uploaded as like a picture on his wall. And then from there, he could take the.
It was a new Sony Ericsson. It was like this brushed metal, tiny little thing.
Really damn cool.
But it had, as part of the XMB, on one of the multimedia tabs in the XMB on the phone was the PlayStation Home icon, and so it uses his PlayStation Network login from the phone. So it was literally take the picture, press a button, and it just connects, and then it just turned up in a frame on the wall.
I would be laughing so hard if they get Home integrated with that sort of Home anywhere before
Microsoft does.
Yep.
It's funny. We're kind of going through this in order.
That would be awesomely funny.
We're kind of going through the press conference in order. It was like the PSN stuff, then Home, then they started talking about third-party PS3 games.
Yep.
And that's when they eventually rolled out the new Metal Gear trailer, which I'm sure everybody's seen by now. And as a huge Metal Gear fan, the first half of it, I was a little impressed, not quite impressed by some of the graphics, like Meryl's hair. I've already complained.
You also have a theory about the dialogue.
Yeah, I think the dialogue works on two levels. It may also be an allegory about PlayStation. You go back and watch it again. But Meryl's hair has been addressed. We went to the producer.
Wait. The thing about it's not about oil anymore. The war itself is the economy.
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff going on. Yeah, go back and watch it again.
I have no idea what's going on with the storyline.
So that was like a false end. We're like, oh, that trailer wasn't that great. But then it showed this crazy fight.
The most badass fight of all
time. It was so over the top, like unrealistic, but it was just fucking phenomenal.
Between Raiden and Vamp, and it's absurd. And it's all real time. And like to think that if I play as Raiden, I might have some of those moves. I'm very, very excited.
The shit where he's like popping blades out of the bottom of his feet and like kicking and like throwing knives.
He takes a katana and shoves it through his own stomach.
Yeah, he stabs himself and gets Vamp behind it.
Nice. Goes all Yoshimitsu.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the good news is, in a week at the 20th anniversary of Metal Gear Party in Tokyo, Kojima is going to finally reveal a playable. He's going to play it for everybody, and Mark is going to go there and report live for us. So look forward to that, kids.
It looked fucking awesome.
So then after all that,
and it was delayed.
And it was delayed.
It's officially early 08.
So we were all blown away by that.
Yeah.
And then they started rolling out another bunch of stuff, and they showed Gran Turismo 5 Prologue,
which I'm going to say, I believe, the best graphics in any game ever.
You've seen some people said, "Oh, it's pretty close to Forza." No fucking way.
I don't even give a shit about racing games, and my jaw was on the floor during that whole trailer. Some of those shots were like photorealistic.
Yeah, I talked to a guy who's working on it, and like that was all from the version coming out this November. And like the things where it's going into the car and out of the car, you can do that. You can like play with the camera. It has full online play,
full inside of the cars rendered, full cockpit.
I told you already.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, like when we go to TGS, nothing would make me happier than to be able to go to Polyphony and do a real in-depth story on. You know what a car nut I am.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would literally give almost anything.
They only showed a little, but they had, that they showed some external stuff, some internal stuff, and it started off in the pits with all the guys walking around, and then it was just the way it was lit and the way
I mean, it looks real.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't expect it. I knew it was
going
to look good. I didn't expect it to look that good.
Yeah.
The other big announcement was Sucker Punch's game, which is called Infamous.
Yeah, Crackdown says hi.
I thought it was really impressive. It's basically like a Crackdown City Heroes kind of thing, where you're a hero in this open world.
So they're saying, Sucker Punch, so you're thinking, oh, okay, I have an idea in my head of what I'm expecting here. And it's the grittiest, gnarliest shit you've ever seen. It's unbelievable.
There's an Abraham Lincoln quote in the beginning of the trailer.
So they obviously grew a little tired of the
they went all the way the other way.
You're kind of this badass dude who looks kind of like the Mass Effect guy, and also kind of like the Haze guy.
Yeah.
I asked about it later, and the trailer really doesn't give you a very good impression of what the game's like. And like you're this super. It's like if anyone's seen the television show Heroes, it's like very much playing on that concept. You're someone who woke up, suddenly has powers that are becoming more powerful, and you can choose to like use them to stop criminals, or you can use them to like rob banks. Like they're really embracing the kind of open world concept of like you're choosing whether you're good and evil with the powers.
I thought it was really impressive looking.
Yeah.
They had some. It was pretty beautiful.
And as they're running through the rest of their extensive first party lineup, like Uncharted looked great. Heavenly Sword again looks great. Little Big Planet, I got to go play the creation stuff, which was really fun. Like it's
that
really
great. The way
really
the
interface
easy to
looks
use.
incredible now.
So easy to use.
They showed actually creating what they've not shown in the past is how you build some of the stuff in the background. So they showed like building a tank by like drawing it, made out of like these cardboard objects and cutting stuff away, and then adding wheels to it, and then suddenly it's a 3D object that they're running around on, and then they built a tree.
Once you make that object, like I was playing it, and the producer made this giant dragon out of like 30 pieces, and like once you've made that, you can like give it to your friends so they can have it and put it in their levels too.
And then they did this thing where they built the PlayStation symbols, by they put these solid objects in the world, and then they'd like cut through it to make the symbols. And
there was like one where there was like a big like orange block, and you're sort of like do, and there was this huge path through like the block. It was just so easy and so cool.
And the producer, he was saying that definitely there's going to be a beta this year, and the retail product is like early next summer. There's more games we're forgetting, but then Killzone was the thing they saved for last.
Yep.
And last night I got to go see the extended version, like the full level. Like you've seen this trailer now, clips of that level. They played through the entire level from beginning to end. It was about 15 minutes long. And I got to say, I found it very impressive. I mean, it's nothing you haven't ever seen before. I mean, it is a shooter.
They were showing it, and like I'm thinking, they were saying, because like Phil, before he showed it, he was like, everything you're about to see is in engine. You're like, okay, maybe there's some concessions to it. And I know some people that worked on it the first time, when the first trailer came out, and that technically that was using in-game geometry and everything. But then it dawned on me after a while, I'm looking, because the whole thing was these 4 giant screens. And the 4 screens were running, and there were actually 2 different views of the game. There was like one of them, the trailer was running, and then 2 was this real-time demo.
Actual demo.
And then I didn't notice till a couple of minutes in that there was a guy on stage with a pad, and he was playing it.
Well, so after the demo last night, where they played the whole level, they went back, and the beginning part where the soldiers are coming into the Hellgas planet, like he paused it, and you can move all around. You can look at the city. I mean, it's all there. That level is over 2 gigs of data, of graphical data.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty stunning. It's very. I mean, it looks like it's very Call of Duty. It's obviously very funneling you down a gorgeous looking path, but
it's much more Call of Duty and Halo than the first game. But really, is that a problem?
Yeah.
Well, one thing that's obviously not a problem is frame rate, because you guys aren't talking about it. So apparently,
it didn't look as good as the CG trailer, but I'm not disappointed. Like it looked phenomenal. Like no one expected the CG trailer, but people didn't want to look all. I mean,
it's subtle.
The spike through the heart of the first game was the frame rate, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, as long as they've conquered that mountain, then we can look at the rest of it.
Yeah.
Then we can really actually.
I ran into Alex Ward from the Burnout team last night, and he'd just seen it before he went to the Microsoft thing, and he goes, "You gotta check out Killzone as soon as you possibly can. It's unbelievable." And he was talking about it, framing it in context with Black, because a lot of what it does is very similar to Black. Like the way the environment shatters. Like there's one fight in the demo where there's these guys pouring out of this building, and he's standing behind a concrete pillar, and he has this like really powerful machine gun, and as he's clipping the concrete, it's shattering all the way through the rebar, the way that Black would. And he said that he'd been talking to the team about how complex it is to modify geometry and stuff like that. But he was saying that it's the subtleties in Killzone that really make the difference. As you know how good the reloads were in Killzone. One of the most, it was just like the guns themselves had real presence.
Chunky.
Well, it's the same here, but as he's like grabbing the gun and popping the clip out and putting it back in, there's focus effects on the gun.
Well, and the motion blur is very subtle.
So the gun as he pops it forward and cocks it, the gun goes out of focus, and it just gives like the whole thing so much more depth. And it's all really subtle stuff, and like a lot of motion blur, but not obnoxious motion blur. It's just very convincing.
Yeah, you don't notice it, but you appreciate what it adds.
Right.
To the game.
Well, and there's parts of the level that they didn't show that are later, where there's the wind really picks up, and there's all these swaying ropes, and the wind's like carrying debris. And at the end of that level, you fight this big, called like an arc tower, and it's like harnessing the lightning. It's pulling all the lightning down, and you're like trying to destroy this while these other guys are shooting you. And
sounds like it came through. Sounds like it came through.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Definitely.
And,
Sounds like PlayStation and Sony in general came through pretty strong.
Well, I think they feel that they had to, and they like really tried really hard.
They delivered some really, and it was a broad, it was a very different vibe from the other 2 press conferences, and I think they were somewhat more focused on who they're speaking to.
Yeah,
they know they've got to win
or...
people over before they. I mean, they are still banging the we got to go mainstream drum, and I think I still think that's a mistake even with a $500 device. I think they got a long way to go to convince us of that. But the games that they showed, I mean, everything from Little Big Planet and some of the quirky download stuff all the way through to Killzone, there was a lot of stuff to make the audience of it. All the people right now that are like looking at 1UP at 3 a.m. and like popping out traffic at weird times of night. Sony catered to that crowd better than anybody else.
And as I said, I took flack for saying that I feel they have the best first-party lineup. Sony Computer Entertainment of America is publishing 15 games for PS3 between now and the end of the year. Neither Microsoft nor Nintendo is doing that for their.
So we got your wrap up, John. It sounds like you're giving Sony a thumbs up.
Yeah, they did.
Patrick?
Thumbs up. Yeah.
Any wrap up thoughts on it?
No, it was just, everything was actually what I expected and hoped for, except for Nintendo. Like, Nintendo was just the big disappointment, and it's unfortunate. And maybe they'll I don't know when are we gonna hear about their 08 lineup? Like, when would that happen?
Well, they are going to TGS for the first time ever, and that's in September.
All right.
So.
We're wrapping up Sony though.
Thumbs up.
Leave Sony, Nintendo's alone.
Sony is my Sony. Microsoft, Nintendo, that's how my conference lineup goes.
Shane, wrap the Sony up.
Same, I agree completely. I think that's the order you can go in: Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony for me wins just because they had more games and they announced more games. They surprised me. I saw things I hadn't seen before, which Microsoft, they should have done that. They could have done that. They have things to show it that they're just not showing.
I'm just all I can say is I'm smiling, fully smiling. All right, next that's it. We got this all wrapped up. We've done the press conferences. We've run way longer than we intended to. So let's just hold the rest of the games we saw. I know we all saw some other good games today.
We have work to do.
We got a ton of work to do, and I got to get some food in me because I am ready to fall.
I have not had a meal all day.
I've got a cookie. I've got a cupcake.
Oh,
so we're gonna hit the cupcakes and get writing so you guys have some more stuff to read. I'm gonna get this thing processed so you can listen to it tonight. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully a little earlier with a whole update of games. Until then, we're gone.